Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's edition of Between a Pot and a Hard Place. I'm Stephen Colton.
And I'm Chris Kirkpatrick.
And hopefully our issues are gone.
I'm crossing my fingers.
And hopefully everybody that was watching this the first time refreshes their page and sees the new broadcast and goes back in. I think
I
they'll
know.
catch on in a moment.
I mean, there's nothing we can do when we have a tech
Right.
problem. You just got to kind of roll with it. So hopefully
Yeah,
people
I
will
feel
give
like,
us a chance here.
and I feel like doing it on a phone is maybe partially cursed. I think maybe next time I'll try to do on a computer downstairs, which their Wi-Fi down there is kind of, well, it's not much better up here apparently, but it's just one of those days, I guess. It happens. But
Yeah, we will make it work no matter what.
hi, okay, so Corey's back. Go wrangle up everybody
All
and
right.
everybody's friends and their mailman and everybody else and have them
Right.
come back.
Right.
So yeah, the
Well, so yeah, I've got to say I've been excited for this discussion a lot. I know we've been talking a lot about Jonathan Majors, and I know that people have had a lot of opinions about him and what's been going on, and so I'm glad that we decided to go and talk about him here on the show.
yeah, and like I was saying earlier in the first part of the broadcast, it kind of messed up there. It was kind of comparing my situations to that, which of course I'm not a celebrity, and I was talking about how if you're in the public eye, you're kind of more prone to backlash and people's opinions, the court of public opinion. But in my situation, it was like I still think about it sometimes, going, um, but then the writer in me goes, well, that was a pretty good planning. That was nice. That was good job. But it was basically just I was thrown into a management position that I didn't want, started doing the job. They changed their mind and didn't tell me. So everyone was like, oh, we hate him because he's controlling.
Oh
And
wow!
they built this master plan to get me out of there. And at one point, I allegedly grabbed one of the girls that worked down there and making crude comments and things like that. And I didn't have. It was almost like that public court of public opinion where I didn't have a say. It was you are indefinitely suspended pending an investigation that will never happen, or you quit today. There is no like, what is your side? What is your
Right,
defense? Nothing. And that's what I feel like is in kind of these situations where someone allegedly does something or does something. Either way, it doesn't matter because this court of public opinion is guilty constantly. It's immediately guilty and nothing about it can be changed, this and this and that. And which leads us to kind of how Jonathan Majors was removed from the MCU playing He Who Remains, which
yeah,
now he who does not remain at this point. It's
yeah.
kind of
I think
strange.
it is strange and it's sad. I think that part of the discussion here is about there's what really happened, and then there's what people think happened, and
Hmm.
oftentimes those are not the same thing.
Yeah, usually not. But before we get too deep into this, I do want to remind people, since we kind of had some hiccups there, if you have hiccups, maybe coffee can help. So, as you see, Chris is enjoying coffee. So, if you want to get some coffee, some of the freshest coffee in the United States, go to hiddenhillscoffee.com and enter promo code POD20 to get 20% off your first purchase. And I'm very excited to try it. I think sometime this week I'm supposed to be getting my samples. You probably will as well. I would
Great.
imagine you would get yours first probably because you're closer. But I don't know. We'll see. And I'm excited. And I noticed like generally use a Keurig here um, at our house, but I've looked into getting those little reusable Keurig filter things, so you could put any kind of fresh coffee in it.
Yeah,
And there's also
we've got the
mhm.
blank K cups as well, and so
Okay,
yeah, if you want to just use regular, if you don't actually have the K cup, you can use regular loose coffee. So
and we
it's
also
great.
have a coffee pot, I believe. So either way, but my first try, I want to try a single cup and see how that goes because I'm not a heavy coffee drinker. I do like usually a cup a day, sometimes two. I know some people have two or three pots a day. You know,
Oh yeah, I
coffee.
mean we really do. Yeah, we really are a coffee loving family. I usually have like a coffee mug that I take with me to work, and when that runs out, I've got the coffee. I've got a Keurig set up in my office, and then
Nice.
usually I have at least a cup or two when I get home. So, yeah, I've got this constant drip of caffeine all day.
Just walk around with an IV bag with coffee. I mean, if you
I
ask
don't,
my
I don't
grandmother,
see it.
like,
I don't see a downside.
no, I mean, like my grandma, she will drink coffee. You could hand her like a big 742-ounce mug, and she would need to fill it 3 times in a day. So, I mean, it. Some people are, and I like coffee. I'm getting into coffee. I'm new to coffee. I started drinking it in the summer, which is a weird time to start drinking coffee, I guess. Oh, it's 85 degrees. Let's go swimming and then have some coffee. But that's how it started for me.
I know it. I can drink. I can drink coffee anytime, any day.
Four
Um,
cups.
4 cups. Yeah, and I think Vicky probably can drink more than that. So
And yeah, yes, she would. Yeah, my grandmother. We have to. She fights us on coffee. Give me a cup of coffee. Give me a cup of coffee. But yeah, if she doesn't have coffee, good lord, watch out. Duck and cover. It's like the old '60s nuclear bomb drills.
oh
There's
wow,
no coffee.
yeah, I'm not quite that bad. I'm not quite that bad.
No, I'm excited though. I'm excited to try the coffee and try fresh coffee, not Folgers or any of these other guys that have been
Yeah,
sitting on the shelves for 17 years.
I'm gonna
Um,
happily give my review when ours shows up.
oh yeah, we need to drink it and demonstrate it. Elixir of life. We possibly need to do like a cooking segment where we make the coffee. Like this is what it looks like. This is how you make it. This is how you drink it. An infomercial. We can put a number on the screen, take order. No, but I'm excited, and I'll
Yeah,
need energy to talk about more. Well, I was going to say I need energy to talk about stuff tonight, but I'm pretty energetic and I don't have the coffee yet. So, but yeah, cancel culture. Yay.
so I guess what really ticks me off about the whole Jonathan Majors situation is how it's screwed up the MCU, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've built so much onto his character as Kang, and so removing him from the MCU, it just seems like a waste, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does. I was going to compare it to Iron Man, where we had, yeah, I already forgot the guy's name. The original,
So Brody, right?
yeah. I haven't seen those movies in so long. I'm like, I forget
Right.
everyone's name. It's what is his name? Robert Dippy Jr. But no, they did recast that character in the Iron Man franchise, and of course they threw a little joke out there like, "It's me, get over it," and that was it. But with this He Who
Right.
Remains Kang character, he's been so much more involved in the story, deep rooted storylines. So it's a big difference, and a small character that becomes a bigger character. Same with Hulk. It's happened before, but something major, an anchor of a story, getting
Yeah.
either recast or what's going to happen. We don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. I was doing some research on Jonathan Majors and where he comes from and his backstory. You know,
Mhm.
uh, just kind of looking at his IMDb. The guy has won um, uh, like 11 primetime Emmys, and he's been nominated like 36 times in his career. I mean, the
Wow.
guy's got legit talent. Um,
Oh yeah.
and even just this year, besides his work on Loki, he had done Creed 3, which was fantastic. I think he was the
Hmm.
one good thing in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Um,
Ah, yes. That's another one I need to watch. I have not yet.
yeah,
I'm
but he
behind.
had been
I'm very behind.
but he had been a part of like Lovecraft Country.
Hmm.
Um, so a lot of good things. I think um, that's part of the tragedy of this whole thing. The guy clearly has a lot of talent, and they had built so much off his character, and now where do they go from here?
Yeah. I mean, where
Yeah,
do they? I mean, do they recast him? Which I guess recasting would be less disastrous than just, oh well, the end. You know. But at the same time, why recast him? I mean, we've seen other people in their past, which I guess that is a different situation, like Robert Downey Jr. had so many issues before his redemption and everything. But that's in the past, and so this is a case of something that's happening right now that's causing this to go on.
Yeah,
Uh, and
I think
it's
we've. It's
I don't
hard
know.
for us not. Yeah, it's hard for us not to look at the situation that Jonathan Majors is in, and not make the comparison to people like Ezra Miller,
Yeah,
or the confrontation between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I think that the question comes down to, like, should actors um, lose their jobs because of things that happen in their private lives? I guess that's part of the question.
yeah, I can see that, and I also I agree. I'm always in the middle of major like topics or debates or whatever. I don't try to be in the middle just for the sake of it, but I try to
Right.
think of what I truly believe, and I always end up in the middle because I don't want to go to one extreme or the other just to say yes, that's my team. Hashtag cancel or hashtag no, but I think it does depend on a few things, like what happened, what did you do to cause this outrage or to cause these things to happen, like what level of extreme or whatever is are these actions? What did you do? Now with Ezra Miller, this is the weird part about it. Ezra Miller did so much worse, shoving people on the ground, grooming people, like hitting, doing all this violent thing, and then here's Jonathan Majors, who, well, from what I understand, his girlfriend or whoever was trying to attack him, and he shoved her off of him into a car and walked away or something, and then the internet blew up, and it's like, oh, cancel him, kill him, put him to prison for life.
So my
Eh,
understanding is that what kind of led to the altercation was that his girlfriend um, thought that he was cheating, and so I think that she had grabbed his cell phone because she wanted to check his cell phone to see if he's been getting, text messages or phone calls from somebody else.
right,
It
okay.
explains why there was a struggle, and why I think she broke a finger in the altercation, because
Mm.
she had his cell phone. He was trying to get it away from her, and that led to the injury.
Okay, yeah.
Um, uh, Jonathan Majors, though, said he didn't hurt her, and that's his side of it. Um, but I think that, whether we like it or not, the fact is that it has gone to court, and he
Mhm.
has been found guilty um, for what's happened. So yeah, I know it's a mess.
I did see, yeah, it is a mess. I saw a clip where it didn't look like I hear some, or not hear about, I read some comments. Oh, he tried to kill her. All this. Then I see this clip, and it's just, yeah, it's not. He's not a saint in the moment, but he's not. It's not as bad as what people make it out to be. But like you said, doesn't matter if it was, if it were looked at and the wrong decision made. It doesn't matter. The decision has been made. This is what happens. Um, no matter, even if he was found innocent and there was proof of it, someone would say, "Oh, that's not true." But yeah, I think as far as the question of should they be held accountable for their personal situations in life, I think if you're in a public, as a public figure, or anyone working with people, especially like an actor or something like that, because they're in the public eye, and then it gives this perception of a property or a studio or whatever, and it gives that perception that this, it's business, it's accountability. I love different opinions. Like if the teacher can lose their job for the same thing, then actors should be held accountable, and I do agree with that. I agree that
Yeah,
there is a line, I think, somewhere where if you tweet something when you're 12 years old and then 20 years later you get removed from public office because you said someone was a stupid head or something like that, like I don't think that should be as big of a deal as actively currently doing something.
right.
um
And I want to
like
really clarify. I really want to clarify something for me.
mm,
Like, um, I'm not here to go and defend Jonathan Majors and his actions.
mhm.
Clearly, if you're guilty of domestic violence, of hurting a woman, then you absolutely deserve to deal with the consequences and all the fallback that comes from it. I think the question that I have for myself is that when I look at the wide range of response responses that studios have had to people who've done similar things or worse. I guess that's where the question that I have. You guys realize that for Jonathan Majors, he didn't just lose his contract with the MCU, which is huge and amounts to millions and
Oh,
millions of dollars.
oh
He's
yes.
lost he's lost other future projects. He's lost endorsements. I think even like his PR company has dropped him. And I think again, those are consequences that happen when you're caught hurting somebody else, and when you do get accused um, and when you're found guilty. When
Hmm.
we look at though Ezra Miller and we look at the laundry list of things that he's done, and yet he's not facing court time. And as far as I know, he hasn't been barred from acting or anything else. I just wonder,
Hmm.
in my mind, what's the difference between them?
I would, yeah. There's one difference that I can see that I would hope wasn't be the issue, but we all know without saying it what that might be, which we're not that kind of show, so we don't want to get too into that. But and Ezra Miller too. It's instead of immediately fired and all this, it's seek counseling and help. Oh, I got therapy. I'm working on myself. That's the redemption factor.
Right.
Some people get it immediately. Some people have to earn it. Look at Will Smith. Well, no one's really talking about the slap anymore, but he's still not 10-year ban from the Oscars, this and that. But he'll bounce back. He'll come back from that. And a lot of times, unless you murder someone or something extreme like that, you'll usually come back. But at what point is it acceptable for these people to earn redemption or to even get a chance at it? You
So
know?
one of the comments here in the chat is has talked a little bit about specifically Disney,
Yeah.
right? That was the comment that I was going to mention here. That Disney seems to be a different kind of business than um, the kind where that Ezra Miller is a part of. I
Yeah.
wonder if Ezra Miller had been employed by Disney, if their decision might have been equally severe.
Right. That is a good question. I'm sorry, I thought my mic went off. I'm like, whoa, no, not again.
No, I
But
can
that
hear you. We're doing
good.
great. Um,
I heard a
but
thing in my headset, so I was gonna. But yeah, that is a very good question, or not question really, but a good point. Like Disney is a lot different, and you hear a lot of talk these days of cancel Disney, boycott Disney, and why? I mean, I get it, but like, why? And too many people go to boycott too soon. Like someone tells them to, oh, okay, and no one really thinks about it and asks questions, and that's kind of what we're here to do today, I guess.
yeah, I mean, I guess the big thing here, Disney may be trying to just distance themselves from someone that might make them look bad, right? It's that whole guilt by association kind of thing.
And Corey makes a good point with Johnny Depp, who we mentioned kind of earlier. He didn't even do well. They found him innocent of all these major accusations, and yet he's still dropped by Disney. So
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter if you're guilty or not with Disney. Like, it's not that Disney's some big evil, like satanic company or anything crazy like that. It's just as a huge business, they own like 90% of the world, I think. So you've really got to look at that as a business and
yeah,
see, yeah, you might lose millions of dollars in the Disney Plus subscribers, or maybe 500,000 people stop going to Disney World or whatever. But then there's this other like 8 billion people over here that are going to keep doing what they do. So they'll take a hit to, you know, get in a better position later, which I
I
get.
yeah, I understand that you're a business, and as a business, you're able to make decisions
Hmm.
about who you employ, and we don't know. I don't know about what kind of contracts a lot of these actors have to sign, whether there is some stipulation or a moral clause in there where if you sort of like if you're Miss America and you misrepresent the title, that you lose it. um, that would be something that I'm curious about. If there's something in writing where if you break a law or if you're involved in something that makes or reflects badly upon the character or the company, that it could cost you your job. That would be something
Hmm.
I'd be really curious about.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure that's in the same safeguarded lockbox that the KFC recipe is. Like you'll never, like,
Probably.
I mean, they probably went in together back in 1900 and got a lockbox. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's something. It's like the user agreement for like iPhone and all these other things. It's like you never read it, so these people go, "Oh, this will be fine," and then they look at it. It's like if you cough in public on a Sunday, you will be fired.
I think the one thing, if I'm going to play devil's advocate here, the one thing that does bother me is the idea here that, uh, Jonathan Majors has been officially convicted
Yeah.
of a crime of domestic violence, and he has completely denied any wrongdoing at all. Part of me, part of me says he should accept that he did it. Constantly denying it when it seems like he was at least partially responsible for what happened might make him look better.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. If I do think that this was exaggerated a little bit. I don't. Do I think that he went in and intentionally tried to break her finger and hurt her? I don't think he intended to do any of that. But it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, it happened. So to sit there and say, "Oh, I deny this. It didn't happen," just because you didn't intend for it to, or because you regret it, it doesn't matter. You know, this is a very interesting topic for tonight because I've been
Right.
watching other things and thinking about things, and so many. Now that we're talking about it, there's so many things I can connect to this and compare it to. We've been watching a lot of the. If anyone's familiar with the Gypsy Rose story, who she basically was imprisoned by her own mother for about 20 years of her life, told she had leukemia, told she had this, forced in a wheelchair, shaved head, feeding tube, all this insane, ridiculous stuff.
Wow.
Then she plans to get someone to kill her mother. Goes to prison for about, was it 8 years or something like that, 7 years, whatever. She gets released in December 2023, and now everybody's like, "Burn in hell! You killed, you murderer!" But it's like I get where she was coming from. She was tortured and imprisoned and in her own personal hell for 20 straight years, and that's the only way she knew how to escape. She never had any education, nothing. But it's that same kind of thing where it's like doesn't matter what her intentions were or what she should have done. She's kind of now and says like, I wish we would have done this differently. I wish she wouldn't didn't have to die. I regret that, this and that. So she's acknowledging and owning, yes, I did this. I asked for this person to kill my mother, and then I regret it now. She's owned it. She's been in and out of the prison for it, and then somebody like Jonathan Majors, who's like, no, that ain't that, no, like completely own what you've done and be like, look, okay, I didn't mean to do that, but it did happen. My actions caused this to happen. I own that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are certainly different perspectives on when you're accused of something, how you deal with it. There are people out there who believe that if you show contrition, if you say you're sorry, if you take ownership, that it's better for you. And then there's the other side of it, where they take the position that you don't accept any responsibility whatsoever. It's sort of the
Mm-hmm.
"it wasn't me" kind of answer.
Right.
And I don't know. I have a hard time respecting people that don't take responsibility, which I think is
Right.
really disappointing because I really liked Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
I liked him as an actor. I really felt like he was going someplace. I loved what he was doing with the character, and I guess that's what really bothers me is I had a high opinion of him, and the way that
Right.
he's responded to this situation has been really
Mm-hmm.
disappointing.
Another situation that really comes to mind with this was Danny Masterson, who you know I think there were 3 or 4 women in total that he allegedly raped, and he was convicted, and he is serving 30 years in prison. 30 years, and he was just
30.
recently transferred. Yeah, 30 years on 2 counts. That's just two because they didn't have enough whatever to convict on the third or fourth count. Just the 2 counts,
Yeah,
and he was just moved to a maximum security facility that once housed Charles Manson.
I just saw that. That's crazy.
And
Now,
it's and
was
you
he?
yeah. Oh,
Yeah, that's crazy. The idea
mhm,
that he is in a maximum security prison where they had put Charles Manson
mhm.
is insane.
And you look at him, and it's like that '70s show. It's like, oh, he's goofy, ha ha. What now? Like, oh, he's denied 100%. And it is an interesting. Like, I followed the trial a little bit, and there were no solid pieces of evidence whatsoever. But their testimony of like he drugged us, this and this. I didn't follow every detail. I just caught the cliff notes here and there. But it's interesting because with Jonathan Majors, there's video, that pictures, proof, witnesses, all this stuff. And in other situations, it's you face more severe penalties for something that can't be proven. And it's where is that? It is weird. It's such a weird and crazy world, where one person, like the comparison with Disney and I guess Warner Brothers, where, oh, okay, well, Disney's more careful about this or that, and everybody else is like, well, we'll just finish this up first. And Corey has a good point. I worked at In and Out, if we were wearing any part of our uniform in public, we had to act like church boys. Um, and then regarding Danny Masterson, I'm assuming it's to keep him safer from other inmates. The security is better than minimum, and that is a good point. Um, but it's still crazy to think about the character from that '70s show being where Charles Manson was. Like,
Right. And isn't it true? It's crazy that as fans, we really only get the side of that they're playing the character. We really don't get a chance to know the real actor or the
right.
actor as a person. Um, just looking here at Masterson, um, so June 17th of 2020, Masterson was charged with raping a 23-year-old woman. Um,
Uh-huh.
in 2001, a 28-year-old woman in 2003, a 23-year-old woman in 2003. So there were three
Okay,
separate
three. Yeah.
counts.
Hmm.
And so now what's crazy about that, three separate accounts from three different women, and he pled not guilty to all of them. So again, it's sort
Yeah.
of that whole situation of like, it wasn't me, I didn't do anything. But again, how many times can you say that, right?
At least,
Before,
yeah.
yeah,
And those charges have been going on, and this whole situation has been going on since they happened, since over 20 years ago.
yeah,
And that was reported to police when it happened, which goes to the question of, well, why didn't you say something sooner? Oh, well, in that situation, they did immediately try, and it took 22 years or something like that to even get anywhere. And I think a big issue with that and I don't want to generalize anything, but Danny Masterson is also a member of the Church of Scientology, which, as
right.
we all know, they're. I don't want to get into it because I think they control the Illuminati, so they might be under the kitchen sink, and they're going to pop out at me if I say anything negative. But we all
I
know
think
the crazy.
I think we'll be
Yeah,
okay. I think we'll be okay.
and I don't know. I can't say if the Masterson allegations were true, because you know, not to say that this makes him not guilty, but he didn't just randomly pick a woman off the street. He was actually living with these women separately at the times that these incidents supposedly occurred. But just because that's the truth doesn't mean that he couldn't have forced himself onto them. So it's just, and the thing I've been thinking about this past week when I'm thinking about this, at what point is it okay to still be a fan of their previous works? Or is it ever okay to still click that on and go, yay? I mean, it's kind of a weird mindset to be in. Like, I know what that guy did, and he's in prison right now, but look at that funny joke he told. It's, I don't know.
No, it's hard. You're absolutely right. I love the Harry Potter franchise, right? I
Mm-hmm.
really do love Harry Potter. I've read the books through at least 7 or 8 times, and I openly admit it. I've watched the movies and I've enjoyed them, and yet I don't have a whole lot of respect for J.K. Rowling as an author. I think her personal views have been
Mm-hmm.
made very clear, particularly in regards to her views toward the LGBTQ. So I don't care for J.K. Rowling much as a person, even though I like what she's created. And so the question for
Right.
me is, can I enjoy Harry Potter even if I don't like the author? Which for me, I can separate what they end up creating from who created it.
Right. And but that also brings up the question of, and in the same way, I can go, oh, that's not good, but I can still appreciate the work because the character, this fantasy or fictional world that you're a fan of, does has nothing to do with this real life situation.
Right.
So you can separate that, but at the same time, you're still in a way supporting this one aspect of this person, and then a lot of people boycott, 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 which that's their right to do if they choose, but it's it's a touchy subject, I guess, because on one hand, if you are extremely like, I don't like this person, anything they do, but I still like this one thing. Some people completely abolish everything, like, oh, I'm not going to shun you, and then some people can separate that.
Yeah.
But
No,
I
I
don't
get
think
it.
it. I don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't think it makes you a bad person for like if a new Harry Potter book came out and you're like, oh, I have to read that. Buying it would give the author the money, but at the same time, some people go, well, I'll just go to the library and read it. But you're still
Right.
they're still getting the money off of that either way you look at it.
Well, so
I
like
don't
for the
know.
same thing, like I don't go to Chick-fil-A, right? Um, Number one, there's plenty of places that I can go to get a chicken sandwich.
Hmm.
But because I know what Chick-fil-A often stands for and their views,
Hmm.
I simply choose to dine someplace else, right? And I guess ultimately people have that right to decide what they spend their money on and what they
Right.
support.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and I'm not saying that if you eat at Chick-fil-A that makes you a bad person.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, you get to make your own decisions, just like I get to make my own decisions, right?
And it, yeah.
And that's kind
Hmm.
of where I am with the whole thing. Um, but that's why this is so complicated, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
we all kind of get caught up in our feelings about these things. Um, I think you can like Jonathan Major's depiction of a character that's established in the comics and say he did a great job. I think you can watch Creed 3 and say that was a great boxing movie and still
Right.
realize that he really screwed up and that he deserves to face the consequences of his real life actions.
And that's one of the reasons why this might be a controversial opinion, but I don't believe that cancel culture even really exists. And not in the way that people, yeah, that's cancel culture. I hate it. There's this, the left and the right, as far as political, not specifically political, but just overall views on the world. And there's a group of people that say, I hate cancel culture. It's so stupid. The guy tweeted, he's whatever. But then there's that other, the same, and a lot of times there's a huge overlap where a lot of the same people are saying, well, I'm boycotting Target because they have this T-shirt that I don't like,
Right.
but they're against canceling something else. Isn't that the same thing? Isn't boycotting a part of cancel culture? I mean, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but it seems pretty similar to me.
No, what's true is that whether you're on the left side or whether you're on the right side, both sides enjoy, canceling the other, right?
Exactly.
That seems to be pretty much the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it happens. It happens a lot. I had been a huge fan of Mario Batali. I had watched his TV shows. I had read his cookbooks. Really loved his food. He was my favorite Iron Chef on Food Network. And then it came out that he was a real slime ball, to especially people that worked with him, and that he had been involved in infidelity. And he lost everything. And I guess that's probably the thing for me that that kind of disappoints me is, you know, I think people deserve to be punished for what they do.
Mhm.
I absolutely think there should be consequences for people's actions. And on the other side of things, it seems like whether you accept responsibility, which Batali did, as much of a slime ball as he revealed himself to be, he accepted responsibility and admitted that he was wrong, but he still lost everything, and he has not gotten it back.
Right.
And I guess that's what's crazy is you can either accept responsibility and get punished, or you can deny responsibility and get punished. There doesn't seem to be any benefit in telling the truth, which is I think why some people choose to just not take responsibility at all.
Unless you work for Warner Brothers, and then you're able to just keep your job no matter how many people you assault.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy.
well,
It's
I don't know if
crazy.
that's an overall general rule with Warner Brothers, but you know, it is crazy. Like there's some things you can do and some things you can't do, and it's. I've always looked at situations where it's like, when is it okay to cancel one thing but not the other? It's there. I know some people that this is bad, like with the Mandalorian. What Gina Carano or whatever, like she got fired or whatever, and everybody's like, "Oh, boycott Disney." But then it's like, okay, but it's the same thing. It's just people on the opposite ends doing the same exact thing.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I'm not saying people don't have the right to boycott something. I'm not saying they're bad for choosing not to do this, but I think people maybe need to start to think that we're all pretty much alike. We're just on the opposite end of the opinion stick, but we're saying the same thing, really. And maybe it's not okay to hate each other for those views.
true.
That's the biggest thing I've learned over the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years.
I
I'm
wish
able
that there
to,
was. Yeah, yeah. I think for me, I wish that there was some kind of consistency across the board. That
right.
no matter who you are, that no matter what you do, if you do these things, then this would be the outcome. And I think that it might make it seem a little bit more fair. When
Hmm.
there's a different penalty for some people instead of others, it does seem like the person who is accused and um, you know punished for one crime does not receive the same punishment as somebody who has been accused multiple times.
Right.
It just seems it just seems crazy to me.
Yeah. Gosh, the more we talk about it, the more I can think of other situations and other people, but it's really all the same. It's just the most recent thing that I've personally been following as far as this type of thing is with. I've always been a big wrestling fan, as a lot of people know, and Vince McMahon, who's, if you don't really like wrestling, you've heard the name Vince McMahon, and he's in pretty big trouble right now because there's a federal investigation, I believe, sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sex trafficking charges. So it's pretty crazy right now, and this guy could be going to prison for I don't know how long if it comes out that he's guilty. But of course, this billionaire, oh, I'm not guilty. I'm gonna fight this.
Yeah,
At the same time, he steps down, and for the first time in like 50 or 60 years or whatever, not one member of his family is working for what, well, now they're officially TKO, which was a merger between UFC and the WWE. They merged together, but it's the first time in like 50 years that no one in his family is part of that company because he resigned from his like executive chairman of the board of directors as soon as these allegations started coming out. And it's like, I'm innocent. Then why
it
didn't you
is.
just quit your? I
Right.
don't know.
I mean, it's one of those things where like uh, when your boss gives you the option to voluntarily quit,
Hmm.
right? We'll let you voluntarily quit instead of firing you. He may not have had a choice.
Right. That's
We'll
that.
let you
I've
say,
I've been in that same situation, so I get that. So that very well could have been, but and it goes along with what Disney's doing too, distancing themselves. You know, but it's just kind of crazy. It goes along with the whole: is it okay to still like the stuff you see on TV? No, there are
it's
some
really, really
cringy
hard.
moments. Well, there's
Yeah.
specifically with wrestling because there are some very cringy moments over the past 20 years and storylines where the same man and character made a woman strip down to her underwear and bark like a dog because that was his character. Now it's coming to light that those storylines seem like Sesame Street compared to this new stuff.
Right.
So now it's like going back and watching stuff from that time. It's like this is real, pretty much, because this guy. It's weird.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know what happens with that, but it's crazy.
No, and I think I'm really glad that we've come to this conversation though about how do we as fans deal with this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I want movies, I want TV shows, I want media out there that I can enjoy. I want good
Hmm.
stories, um, you know, and so that's the question. Maybe we should ask people who are viewing here tonight: are you able to watch movies or TV shows or media with people that you know in their real lives are actual scumbags?
You don't have to like the person, but you can enjoy others' works just like works with that other person. Just Michael Jackson, the individual, and the music. That's a great example, you know.
Yeah, that really is good. I love Michael Jackson. Definitely acknowledge his talent, and at the same time
Mhm.
realize that he was a complicated individual.
And that's another question that kind of comes up in my mind. I have no doubt that Michael Jackson did some of the things that he was accused of doing, but I can't say he's done everything that he was accused of doing because I wasn't there and I didn't see enough to know for a fact without a shadow of a doubt he did this. But in his mind, and not even just his mind, but other situations with other people, his mind was so kind of warped, probably, and twisted. Yes, he was a genius with music, he was a genius with business, he knew all that. When it comes down to being a human being, aside from all that, did he even know how to function? You know, I mean, like, look at his upbringing, look at his past, but does that make it okay? You know what I mean? Is it an excuse for it? Does it justify the way you act because, well, it's not my fault? Or, you know, are you expected to know, like, hey, and learn from that? Or it's one of those touchy subjects where
Yeah,
you don't really know you know what you're doing, but you don't really see the severity of it because I can imagine if you don't have a childhood at all, and then you're in your 40s or 50s hanging out with little kids, on the surface, that's pretty creepy. But in the person's mind, maybe it was just fun and it wasn't
yeah,
bad. But still, it's bad either way you look at it because you shouldn't be having children stay over at your house if you're in your 40s or 50s. It doesn't matter what your intentions are. You know, it's weird. I don't know.
yeah.
It's
You'll get no argument from me that that was a bad idea. So it is hard. It is
yeah.
hard. I mean, I think that there is uh, trying to separate the art from the artist can be really challenging. Um, and I think that especially as we're talking here about cancel culture and the truth is if we cancel everything that we don't like or disagree with, we're not going to be left with very much.
Right. And if we boycott everything that we kind of even slightly dislike, then well, no one every major company would crumble tomorrow because there's always going to be that one little bit that like, oh, I need this. I'm boycotting Walmart, but I love their butter or whatever. You know, there's always going to be something. And that's the other thing too with people boycotting things. They don't think of like the subsidiaries and smaller companies underneath this big umbrella or sponsors of those places. And they don't, you know, if you really canceled or boycotted everything, there would be nothing left. It would be, we would revert back.
Right.
There would be no internet. There'd be it would just be like this, the downfall of humanity, probably, which is weird to say, but it's kind of true. We're
Yeah.
such a technological driven and entertainment driven society that if we canceled everything, then well, it would be like Little House on the Prairie or something. You know, riding a horse to school both ways uphill.
I mean, people already think that I'm older than I am, right? So,
I mean, people think I'm older than I am,
right.
especially that I look like a mountain goat or something. I don't know.
You look distinguished, Steven.
Yeah, and it's getting kind of crazy. I'm like, oh gosh, but I don't look like anybody special, so I'm like, oh no. But yeah, I don't know. entertainment is definitely a tricky thing when it comes to this kind of stuff because there's always
It
going to be
is.
somebody.
So I guess that really we have to ask ourselves the question: what do we do with that now? I mean,
Yeah.
where do we go from here? Um, Number one, I really hope that the MCU, um, makes good decisions and they don't give.
Hmm.
I think that's the biggest thing for me was the idea that they were going to give up on this storyline after
Yeah,
everything they've built
that's
up with Loki and with Quantumania. The idea that they would just walk away from that, I think that would be a
mhm.
real loss.
Yeah, it would be, and that's the other thing. That's why I don't boycott anything because at the end of the day, especially with a movie like with the Flash, I was going to watch the Flash no matter what. Did I hate what was going on with Ezra Miller? Sure. And there were tons of people like, I'm not watching that movie regardless. Like, I'm sorry, but I can't not watch it because there's so much effort, work, determination, all this stuff that not just Ezra Miller was involved in, but the thousands and thousands of other people working on that project. One person makes a stupid mistake, the whole thing crumbles. This person's out of a job. That person's out of a job. This look at the Batgirl movie.
Yeah,
That was completed. It was finished. All those people's hard work. Now that was a different situation. They didn't cancel it over some allegation or this or that, but still, the point is the same. That all that hard work went for nothing. I mean, sure they got
yeah.
paid and everything, but I mean, what was the point of doing it all?
It is amazing how the actions of one person can really affect everybody else, right? Like that's the real
Yeah,
that's what's crazy.
yeah. I also hope that MCU does not do what the CW did, which I don't think they will, but I think James Gunn at least kind of like superheroes, so we'll see what he does. But
I think
oh wait,
I
that's
think if
yeah. I
you
don't know.
spend yeah, I think that James Gunn's transition to his
Yeah, that's different.
from the Snyder vision to
Right.
his, it's been really, really clunky.
Yeah.
It's been really, really clunky, and that's part of the problem. You've got people who really, really, really loved what happened in the Justice League with Zack Snyder, and they
It
wanted
was
to.
good.
They, I think at least we finally had a Justice League movie,
Yeah.
and you have to admit, people like Gal Gadot, very well cast in that
Hmm.
movie. Um,
Perfect. Yeah.
so the idea that they would walk away from Henry Cavill as Superman
Why?
or Ben Affleck as Batman, that I think for a lot of people, um, it was really hard for them to let go of that, and that's also why some people have not gone and latched on to um, like the second Aquaman movie or the
Hmm.
Flash, is because they know that ultimately these are storylines. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
They're not going
They
to
don't
end up
matter.
connecting. They don't matter. I think that's been a lot of
Hmm.
people where they've just given up on that. So that's part of my frustration too. In a
Hmm.
lot of these, I know they're corporate decisions, but they do have real, true economic consequences.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I feel this. I feel that way of the. I already forgot where I was going with that. No, well, but yeah, the DC stuff. It is kind of like crazy how it's being rebooted, recast, this and that. But I'm of that same mindset you were just mentioning. Like I probably will never watch Aquaman 2. Number one, I was never that into the Aquaman character. I mean, I saw Jason Momoa in those DC films, and he was great. I'm not hating on him specifically, just the character overall. At least they did bring Aquaman from some skimpy, not skimpy, but some like dorky looking guy in an orange thing riding what was he riding, a seahorse or something, like in the old comics, to like some big tough looking guy. Like they've done that and they've made Aquaman something that might be interesting, but I can't watch the movie because I know none of it matters.
Yeah,
I watch Flash
he's
just because that's my favorite DC character. But even that movie wasn't the best. I mean, the ending of the Flash movie, if no one's seen it, that's the worst. I think the very last scene in the Flash movie was worse than the entire Girl 2016 Ghostbusters. Maybe not. I don't know. That's pretty bad. But the cameo at the end. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but
I have seen the Flash movie. I
okay,
feel like I feel like there were some real high points in the movie. I
there were.
loved Michael Keaton's involvement with the movie.
Oh, that was what
I
made the
think
movie watchable.
it did. It frankly it felt like a Batman movie and
Yeah,
less like a Flash movie.
absolutely.
I think the idea to have twice as much Ezra Miller in that movie was ridiculous.
I think
Um,
now I know everybody wanted this. Every Flash fan wanted this. But imagine if had that been Grant Gustin and Ezra Miller,
oh,
the
I mean,
entire
number one.
time.
So consider the fact that during the crossover event when Gustin was still playing the Flash on the CW, and they had actually met.
Right?
What if what if they had it where it was Ezra Miller and then Gustin together? So
Yeah,
different
that would have been.
versions of the same character.
That probably all depended on, of course, his availability, his desire to do something like that. But had that fallen into place, that would have been the perfect transition into the new DCU because
Oh
hey,
yeah.
he could have been the new DCU Flash, and that movie could have, you know, been that anchor point or that launching point or whatever. I mean, that said, the movie itself was still good, and there were still some funny moments between Ezra Miller and Ezra Miller, but double dose of him the entire movie, that character is just too whiny, too goofy. Doesn't take any. There's no sincerity, even in the scenes with his parents and this and that. Like I couldn't take him seriously.
They put
Just
a baby in a microwave.
yeah, I mean, I get he was trying to protect the baby from like things, but still, it's like, and then he stops to eat a candy bar, like. Like I get that the whole metabolism and energy and stuff, but it's like, couldn't you have just eaten a whole turkey and then went and saved everybody
Yeah.
instead of like, oh look, let's just smash a vending machine, yum yum yum, Tic Tacs or not Tic Tacs, but Kit Kats and whatever. That whole scene was kind of goofy, and I get where people say, "Oh, the CGI was terrible," like that whole scene. But yeah, a baby in
I
a
will say
microwave.
I will say though that again, getting to see Michael Keaton as Batman after all those years, I
Yeah,
that was worth it. And I thought that Sasha Kaye really did a great job in her role as Supergirl.
yeah, I liked her character and her job as that character, but I also found myself, just like you said about Aquaman and these other movies, not really caring as much about the character, mostly because I knew she wasn't going to go anywhere. But I enjoyed it for what it was while it lasted, but I didn't get my hopes up for anything else with
Right.
that character. A lot of people thought it was weird to have like a brunette Supergirl, but that didn't really phase me at all because no one says that Supergirl has to be blonde. I mean, if I remember right, she's one of the only blonde Kryptonians anyway, except for the original Supergirl. But I mean, I don't know. The hair color didn't bother me. The
I think
cameos and all that was really fun. That
yeah.
whole multiverse scene where you see Adam West, you see the George Reeve, you see like all this different stuff, all these Batman iterations, and we even kind of got a tease of the Flash, which looked like Jay Garrick from the series,
Right.
but we don't really know, kind of thing. But yeah, that was my point about bringing that up. Was at the end, the last cameo, all is set back to right. He, saves his dad from going to prison, but also whatever he sets everything back the way it's supposed to be, and then we see a car pull up, and who is it? Oh, it's Bruce Wayne, but it's George freaking Clooney. Why? I feel like that when they made that movie, they're like, well, this is the last big, other than Aquaman or whatever, but this is like a big last movie for this universe. So let's just give the middle finger straight to the fans. Like, ha 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 ha. Like, I don't know. That
I
really
mean,
irritated me.
no, I think that number one, George Clooney has to know that he is the least favorite version of Batman out there.
I think he's even said that himself in the
Yeah.
past on interviews that he, as a fan, thinks he's the worst Batman. So
Yeah. So
like bat nipples. I mean,
I know we wouldn't, and I think that we would not have realized just how terrible this new future is until we get George Clooney's Batman to pop up.
I mean, it uh, would have been if it was Val Kilmer. No, yeah,
Val Kilmer was slightly better.
slightly better. But yeah, George Clooney. So it leaves you the question though of like all of this that's happened. They reset the entire timeline to where Ben Affleck was never Batman, or is it like Marvel where they just made a little branch and then the it's just so it's one of those loopholes from like Heroes or Savitar because in my mind I was always under the impression that from Michael Keaton to George Clooney was the same universe. It was the same Batman each time, just different actors. The Flash goes with, oh, here's Michael Keaton. It's a continuation of this Tim Burton world. And it ends with George Clooney, who is in the same world, but yet not the same. And I just, why do that to me? Why? I hate it.
Yeah. I think the whole idea of flashpoints where they're divergent timelines, I think that probably makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think so. But just in my mind there, I was like, wait, why George Clooney?
Right.
I mean, you could have even put like, oh, never mind. There's nobody else.
Okay, so real fast, favorite Batman in order. Who is your top favorite Batman of all time?
It's got to be Michael Keaton. I mean, Michael Keaton, as far as live action, if it's specifically live action. If not exclusively live action, then Kevin Conroy. Because, the animated series, video games, that would be my overall favorite Batman. But as far as live action, it's got to be definitely Michael Keaton.
Right. I think Conroy was Batman for 30 years.
Yeah.
Which I think has got to count for something. I still feel like Christian Bale is usually fighting between first and second. I really liked him, and I thought that his trilogy was probably the most coherent of any of the live action ones.
I did really like the Batman, the most recent Batman movie, and more so not as the character or the actor playing the Batman, but the detective part of Batman. It was very kind of gritty and detective like, and it felt like that was something some of the other movies had been missing a little bit of. So that was nice to see that.
I think that I think that one has potential.
Yeah.
I still have a very soft spot in my heart for the old Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
He's a very innocent, very straight laced, almost kind, sweet Batman. And so yeah, I rank him probably in my top 4, just because I liked that. I think then you get Ben Affleck after Adam West. Maybe I know
I would put him in there.
I know. I'm sure there are people that will hate my views on that.
I've always kind of liked Ben Affleck, and a major part of my liking him is I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, Clerks and all that.
Right.
And Ben Affleck was in several Kevin Smith films early on, and Mallrats was the first, which was in 1995, and that was before Ben Affleck really became famous. So like he was in that movie before he was in all these other movies. So that I kind of like him from that. But do I like every Ben Affleck movie? No, but I don't mind him as Batman. I thought he was good as Batman. I would have liked to seen him as Batman more. See a younger Batman, not an origin Batman as Ben Affleck, but he's all old and halfway retired by the point we see him, and which was still cool to see. You've never seen that Batman in live action before until that moment. So that was nice. That is something to be said, though. Every time that they reboot a Batman or give us a new Batman, and they've always tried to approach it in a different way. It's never been the exact clone of the one before. So that's at least a good thing that can be said. Now, this new guy, or if there is going to be a new guy, I don't know, because you have a new Superman, you have a new Supergirl, you have this, this, this. Is there going to be a new Batman, or is the Batman going to be the Batman? I mean, it would be.
I know. I
don't know.
I get worn out. I get worn out
Yeah.
whenever they reboot characters. It's like I'm forced to try to fall in love all over again.
And you can only watch a guy lose his parents so many times.
Right. I feel the same way
sad.
about
It's like,
Spider-Man. Yeah, I feel the same way about Spider-Man. I'm like, again, how many times does he have to get bitten by a spider and go through high school?
Yeah, I mean, I love Tobey Maguire, and I love Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. As far as my favorite Spider-Man, he probably would be on the top of the three. But they did handle him a lot differently. I was hoping for like a true comic accurate thing. Because didn't he originally start with like the Fantastic Four or something like that, or tried to start with them? And that's another movie coming, Fantastic Four. And, and the X-Men. The X-Men is going to come. It's the next. Hopefully, the next stage of Marvel, or the next phase, whatever they want to call it, is this past phase has been more centered on the TV shows. Right. And this kind of thing. But I really would love to see like X-Men, and Deadpool 3 actually will be, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, finally in the costume. So I'm excited for that.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, I feel like we pulled this one out. We had a rocky start, but we made it work.
And it's worked better.
We tackled the Jonathan Majors, controversy and all that's come with it, and I think we came out on top.
They tried to prune us from the timeline about an hour ago, but we who remain,
we remained, absolutely.
Whatever, yeah, we have glorious purpose.
All right, and I feel like if people are still remaining here with us, hey, if you guys haven't already subscribed to our podcast, go ahead and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button
down there somewhere.
Yeah, and then one more plug here for Hidden Hills Coffee. Guys, give them some love. Check them out. Make sure that you use that promo code POD20 to get 20% off of your first purchase. I promise you won't be disappointed.
Exactly. But you don't get 20% off the quality. Just 20% off the price.
You get 100% quality, 20% off the price.
Exactly. But yeah, it's been fun. I'm glad we were able to remain.
Yes, we made.
And I'm looking forward to next week, and we'll have some interesting topics. I liked how this went. It was a great conversation. It was a great topic to discuss.
I absolutely agree. And if you guys are watching this and you guys have some topics that you think we should go ahead and bring up, hey, put them right there in the chat as well. We definitely will take some recommendations for topics you guys think we should talk about.
And also, real quick, before we get out of here, since we're not able to really throw up graphics right now, I wanted to give a mention of Carl Weathers, who just passed away.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. That was rough. I thought, I was like, wow, man, like so many iconic characters that he, we could definitely maybe look at talking about and discussing the life and career of Carl Weathers next week. I think that would be, or at least touch on, because from Rocky, Star Wars, just so much.
Happy Gilmore.
Who can forget that?
Yeah, Mandalorian. So he was in quite a bit. So
2024. This year's already taken them. So we'll see how the rest of the year goes. Hopefully, don't take any of the good ones again.
I'm not making.
Go get some coffee. Yeah, everybody, go get some coffee. Don't make any bets. Bet on the coffee. It's a safe bet. Very safe bet.
Yeah, coffee won't let you down. All right, Ethan, thank you so much. It's been fun. Have a good night.
And you as well. All right, we'll see everybody next time. Have a good evening, everybody.
Adios.
Sayonara.